The stars looked different from this part of space. Commander Alan Wright stood on the bridge of the Orion's Arrow, watching the unfamiliar patterns on the main view screen. After 6 months of deep space exploration, they had ventured farther than any human ship before them. "Commander, we're picking up something on long-range scanners," said Lieutenant Betty Morris from her station. Her fingers moved quickly across her control panel. Alan walked over to her station. "What do we have?" "A ship, sir. Not one of ours. Design doesn't match anything in our database." The bridge fell silent. Everyone understood what this meant. "First, contact Alert Dr. Miller," Alan said calmly, "and call Lieutenant Hall to the bridge." Within minutes, Dr. Samantha Miller and Lieutenant Kevin Hall arrived. Sam was the ship's xenobiologist and first contact specialist. Her eyes widened as she looked at the scans of the alien vessel. "It's beautiful," she whispered. The ship had a sleek, curved design with what looked like delicate spines extending from its hull. It reminded Alan of a sea creature from Earth's oceans. Kevin Hall, the security officer, was less impressed. "Weapon status?" "They have weapon systems, but nothing is powered up," Betty reported. Alan nodded. "Open a channel, standard greeting package." The communication officer sent the carefully prepared first contact message, a series of mathematical sequences followed by simple images and language primers. They had rehearsed this moment countless times, but nothing could prepare them for the reality of humanity's first meeting with an alien civilization. Minutes stretched into an hour as they waited for a response. "They're responding," the communications officer finally announced. "Visual and audio." "On screen," Alan ordered, straightening his uniform. The view screen flickered and revealed the bridge of the alien vessel. The crew of the Orion's Arrow got their first look at an alien species. They resembled large insects, with iridescent exoskeletons in blues and greens. They had 4 arms and compound eyes that seemed to catch and reflect the light. The alien in the center of the screen was larger than the others and wore some kind of metallic decoration across its thorax. "I am Zith Val, commander of the exploration vessel Lightseeker," the alien said in surprisingly good English. "We represent the Valari Confederation." Alan stepped forward. "I am Commander Alan Wright of the Earth ship Orion's Arrow. We come in peace and friendship." The alien's antennae twitched. "Your translation technology is impressive for a species we have not encountered before." "We don't have translation technology," Sam said, moving to stand beside Alan. "We learned your language from your transmission." The alien's compound eyes seemed to widen, and a strange clicking sound came from the other Valari on their bridge. "Impossible," said Zithval. "Our language primer was basic. No species could learn so quickly." Sam smiled. "Humans are good at patterns. I'm Dr. Samantha Miller, xenobiologist and first contact specialist." The Valari commander seemed to study them for a long moment. "We would like to meet in person, to establish formal relations." Alan glanced at Sam, who nodded eagerly, and Kevin, who looked less convinced. "We would be honored," Alan replied. "We can prepare a shuttle bay for your arrival." "Very good," said Zithval. "We will arrive in 3 of your hours." After the transmission ended, the bridge erupted in excited conversation. "Can you believe it?" Sam said, her face glowing with excitement. "Actual aliens, and they want to meet us." Kevin was less enthusiastic. "I noticed their weapon scans were active during the entire conversation," he said quietly to Alan. "They were assessing our capabilities." "Standard procedure," Alan replied. "We were scanning them too." "There's something else," Kevin said. "Did you notice how they reacted when Dr. Miller said we learned their language? That wasn't just surprise, that was alarm." Alan hadn't caught it, but Kevin had always been good at reading people, even apparently alien people. "Keep security protocols in place," Alan told him. "But let's put our best foot forward. This is a historic moment." 3 hours later, the Valari shuttle docked with the Orion's Arrow. Alan, Sam, and Kevin waited in the shuttle bay with a small reception team. The air felt electric with anticipation. The shuttle door opened, and 4 Valari emerged. In person, they were much larger than they had appeared on screen. The tallest, clearly Zith Val, stood nearly 7 feet tall. Their exoskeletons shimmered under the bay lights. Sam stepped forward with a smile. "Welcome aboard the Orion's Arrow." The Volari stopped suddenly. Their antennae went rigid. The aliens at the back actually took a step backward. "Is something wrong?" Alan asked. Zith Val made a visible effort to move forward again. "No. We are adjusting to your ship's environment." But Kevin caught the way the aliens' eyes darted to the humans' hands, to their mouths, to the way they moved. Something about humans was deeply unsettling to the Volari. The delegation moved to a conference room where Sam had prepared a presentation about Earth and humanity. As she spoke, Alan noticed the Volari whispering among themselves. "Deathworlders," he heard one say. "High-gravity species." "Endothermic metabolism," another whispered. "Endurance predators." Alan wasn't sure what to make of these comments, but the tension in the room was obvious. When Sam showed footage of humans running a marathon, the Volari visibly recoiled. "You can maintain this speed for 42 kilometers?" Zith Val asked incredulously. "Some of us," Sam said, confused by their reaction. "Our record holders can do it in just over 2 hours." The Volari exchanged alarmed glances. The meeting continued awkwardly. When Sam offered refreshments, the Volari watched in what seemed like horror as the humans ate and drank. "You process solid food inside your bodies?" one of them asked. Sam nodded, increasingly puzzled by their reactions. After 2 hours, the Volari requested to return to their ship. Alan walked them back to the shuttle bay, trying to maintain the diplomatic atmosphere despite the strange undercurrent. As they reached the shuttle, Zith Val turned to Alan. "We will transmit coordinates for a neutral meeting point. Our leadership will want to establish formal relations with your species. We look forward to it," Alan said, extending his hand in the human gesture of friendship. Every Volari froze, staring at his outstretched hand with their compound eyes wide. Alan slowly lowered his hand, realizing his mistake. "My apologies. I forgot our customs might be different." Zith Val's voice was strained. "Quite different, yes." As the Volari boarded their shuttle, Alan heard one of them whisper to Zith Val, "They don't even realize what they are." The shuttle departed, leaving the humans staring after it in confusion. "What just happened?" Sam asked, turning to Alan and Kevin. Kevin's face was serious. "I think we just scared the hell out of them." "But why?" Sam asked. "We didn't do anything threatening." Alan remembered the whispered words. "Deathworlders. Endurance predators. Maybe we didn't have to," he said quietly. "Maybe to them, we're the scary aliens." 6 months had passed since the first contact with the Volari. Ambassador Laura Chen stared out the viewport of the diplomatic shuttle as it approached the massive space station. The structure hung in orbit around a swirling gas giant, its ring-shaped body glittering with thousands of lights. "Quite a sight, isn't it?" Stephen Parker said, joining her at the viewport. As the military advisor to the human delegation, he kept his uniform crisp and his eyes alert. Laura nodded. "The Galactic Council Station, home to representatives from 12 spacefaring civilizations, and soon hopefully humans will be the 13th. The invitation to join the council had come as a surprise. After the strange first meeting with the Volari, Earth had prepared for slow, careful diplomatic exchanges. Instead, the Volari had returned within weeks with news of the Galactic Council and an invitation for Earth to send representatives. The shuttle docked smoothly at the station. Laura took a deep breath as she prepared to lead her team of 10 diplomats and advisors into humanity's new future. "Remember," she told them, "we're guests here. We follow their protocols and respect their customs." The airlock doors slid open. A group of aliens waited on the other side. 2 Volari, a blue-skinned humanoid with 4 eyes and something that looked like a floating jellyfish. "Ambassador Chen," the taller Volari said, "I am Council Member Zrix. Welcome to the Galactic Council Station." "Thank you for your invitation," Laura replied with a slight bow. "We're honored to be here." As the human delegation followed their guides through the station, Laura noticed something odd. The wide corridors seemed to empty as they approached. Aliens would see them coming and quickly turn down other passages or step into rooms. "Is the station usually this empty?" she asked Zurix. "Not at all," the Valari replied. "It houses over 20,000 beings from across the galaxy." Stephen caught Laura's eye. He had noticed it too. The humans were given a section of the station to use as their embassy. The quarters were comfortable, if strange. The beds were too short, the chairs oddly shaped, and everything seemed slightly too high or too low. They weren't built for humans, Stephen observed as they settled in. Over the next 3 days, the pattern continued. Aliens would stare at the humans from a distance but move away if approached. In meeting rooms, other species left empty seats around the humans. When Laura tried to engage representatives from other worlds, their responses were polite but brief. The 4th day, Council member Zrix took them on a tour of the station's central areas. They visited gardens filled with plants from a dozen worlds, observation decks with spectacular views of the gas giant, and finally, the Great Council Chamber, where representatives met to discuss galactic affairs. "Tomorrow, you will be formally introduced to the full council," Zrix explained. "It is a great honor." "We understand," Laura said, "and we're grateful for the opportunity." As they walked back toward the human section, Stephen pulled Laura aside. "Something's not right," he whispered. "I've been checking the security systems. There are tracking programs following our movements, recording our physical data." "What kind of data?" Laura asked. "Speed, strength, reaction times. They're studying us." Laura frowned. "I'll speak with Zurix about it tomorrow." But that night, as the human delegation prepared for bed, the station's power suddenly failed. Emergency systems kicked in almost immediately, bathing the corridors in dim red light. "Ambassador Chen," the station's AI announced, "please remain in your quarters. This is a minor technical issue." Laura was about to comply when her door chimed. It was Stephen. "You need to see this," he said urgently. "Now." He led her to a viewport overlooking one of the station's main thoroughfares. In the red emergency lighting, they could see dozens of aliens frozen in the corridor, not just stopped but completely immobile as if paralyzed. "What's happening to them?" Laura asked. "Nothing is happening to them," Stephen replied grimly. "This is what they do. The red light lets us see what we couldn't before." A message from Zrix appeared on Laura's communicator. "Emergency Council meeting. Human representatives requested immediately." Laura gathered her team, and they followed. Station guides to the council chamber. As they walked through the red-lit corridors, they saw the same scene everywhere. Aliens frozen in place, only their eyes moving to watch the humans pass. The council chamber was fully lit. All 12 council members sat in their raised seats around the circular room. None of them looked happy. "Ambassador Chen," Zrix said as they entered, "I apologize for the false emergency. It was necessary." "Necessary for what?" Laura demanded. "To show you the truth," said another council member, the blue-skinned being, with 4 eyes. "And to show us what you really are." Zrix stood. "Humans come from what we classify as a death world. Your planet's gravity is crushing to most species. Your atmosphere is toxic. Your wildlife is aggressive. Your weather patterns are violent." Laura looked around at the council members. All of them kept their distance, watching the humans with wary eyes. "And your kind evolved as pursuit predators," Zrix continued. "When most beings in the galaxy feel fear, they freeze. It is the natural response to danger. But humans hunt. Humans chase, humans attack. We're not here to attack anyone," Laura protested. "We came in peace." "Perhaps," said Zrix, "but you must understand our concern. Your bodies are built to withstand forces that would kill most of us instantly. Your minds process danger without shutting down. You keep moving when any rational being would stop." The blue alien spoke again. "The power failure was a test. When danger threatens, normal species freeze until the threat passes. Your kind immediately moved toward the potential threat. Laura realized with growing horror what was happening. This isn't about alliance. This is about containment. Zrix's antennae twitched. The Council must consider the safety of all galactic citizens. Your species represents a unique challenge. Stephen stepped forward, and several Council members visibly flinched. You're afraid of us, he said. That's what this is about. With good reason, Zrix replied. You don't even realize what you are. You think yourselves normal, peaceful explorers. But to the rest of the galaxy, you are nightmares made flesh. Laura looked around the room, at the aliens keeping their distance, at the guards positioned near every door, their weapons not quite pointed at the humans but ready. So what happens now? She asked quietly. Now, said Zrix, we discuss terms, limits on human expansion, restrictions on which sectors you may enter, protocols for interaction with other species. Quarantine, Stephen muttered. Protection, Zrix corrected. For everyone's benefit, including yours. Laura understood then that humanity's place in the galaxy would not be what they had imagined. They weren't being welcomed as equals. They were being managed as threats. And she wondered what Earth would say when she brought home this news. Admiral Carol Wilson stared at the report in her hands. The news from the Galactic Council was worse than anyone had expected. They want to restrict our ships to a 20-light-year bubble around Earth, she said, looking up at the other members of Earth's Defense Council. They want to limit our colonies to 3 systems, and they want inspectors on all our military vessels. General Ryan Cooper slammed his fist on the table. This is outrageous. They're treating us like children, or prisoners. The meeting room fell silent. Earth's top military and political leaders had gathered in the orbital defense station to discuss the ultimatum from the Galactic Council. It had been 1 year since Ambassador Chen's return with the disturbing news about how aliens viewed humanity. Dr. Foster, tell us about your research, Admiral Wilson said. Jason Foster, the leading xenopsychologist studying alien psychology, stood up. He was a tall, thin man with tired eyes. He hadn't slept much since the samples from the Council species had arrived for study. It's fascinating, really, he said. Most Council species evolved on worlds with approximately 1/3 of Earth's gravity. Their home planets had few large predators. Their bodies are fragile by our standards. He activated a holographic display showing comparisons between human biology and various alien species. Their muscle density is much lower than ours. Their bones break under pressures that wouldn't bruise a human, and their fight-or-flight response is heavily weighted toward freeze. When threatened, they literally stop moving. General Cooper frowned. So we're the monsters in this story? Because we're stronger? Not just stronger, Foster explained. We're faster, more durable, and crucially, we can function under stress. When we're afraid, we can still think and act. For most galactic species, fear temporarily shuts down higher brain functions. Admiral Wilson considered this information. It explains the Council's demands. They're afraid of us. And fear leads to poor decisions, said General Cooper. If they're this afraid now, when we've done nothing threatening, what happens when they decide we're too dangerous to exist at all? The question hung in the air. Nobody had a good answer. 3 days later, Admiral Wilson received word that a ship from the Braxil Empire had entered Earth's system. The Braxil were one of the Council species, known for their warrior culture and aggressive expansion before joining the Council. They're requesting permission to dock at the station, her communications officer reported. Granted, Wilson said, and alert General Cooper and Dr. Foster. The Braxil ship was smaller than Earth vessels but heavily armed. Its hull was painted with red symbols that looked like claw marks. When the delegation emerged from their ship, Wilson was struck by their appearance. The Braxil were reptilian, with scaled skin in shades of green and brown. They stood on 2 powerful legs with thick tails for balance. Their hands had 3 fingers ending in sharp claws. They were the most physically imposing aliens humans had yet encountered. Admiral Wilson, the lead Braxil said, bowing slightly. I am Commander Sath of the Braxil Empire. Welcome to Earth space, Wilson replied. What brings you to our system? Sath's yellow eyes narrowed. I come with a message from the Braxil Empire. We believe the Council's approach to humans is misguided. Wilson raised an eyebrow. How so? The Council fears what it doesn't understand, Sath said. They see your physical capabilities and assume you are dangerous. The Braxil understand strength. We respect it. That sounds promising, Wilson said cautiously. Sath made a clicking sound that might have been laughter. Do not misunderstand. We do not offer alliance. We offer a demonstration. A demonstration of what? A demonstration of proper hierarchy, Sath said. The Braxil were once feared as you are now. We proved our right to respect through combat. You must do the same. Wilson's face hardened. We're not looking for war, Commander. Not war, Sath corrected. Just a small demonstration. One of your outposts against one of our warships. To show the galaxy who is truly superior. Before Wilson could respond, alarms blared throughout the station. Admiral, her communications, officer shouted. We've lost contact with Outpost 7 in the Tau Ceti system. Long-range sensors detect a Braxil warship attacking the outpost. Wilson turned to Commander Sath, fury in her eyes. What have you done? Sath's expression was calm. The demonstration has begun. Your outpost has 50 humans. Our ship carries 200 Braxil warriors. When your people freeze in fear before true predators, the Council will see that humans can be controlled. General Cooper had already activated his communicator. This is General Cooper. Launch rescue ships to Tau Ceti immediately. Dr. Foster stepped closer to Wilson. They don't understand, he whispered. Humans don't freeze when attacked. We fight back. The next 12 hours were tense. All communication with Outpost 7 remained cut off. 3 Earth defense ships had been dispatched but wouldn't arrive for hours more. When the first images finally came through from a probe that reached Tau Ceti, the command room fell silent. The Braxil warship was drifting, massive holes torn in its hull. Outpost 7 was damaged, but intact. The transmission from the outpost's commander told the story. They hit us without warning. Took out our communications first. They probably expected us to panic, but we've drilled for this. Everyone got to their stations. When they boarded, they seemed shocked that we were organized, that we were fighting back. They kept hesitating at critical moments like they couldn't believe we weren't freezing up. We used that against them. Commander Sath watched the transmission, his scaled face unreadable. Impossible, he finally said. Our warriors are the finest in the galaxy. Your warriors evolved to fight enemies who freeze in fear, Dr. Foster explained. Humans don't do that. We're at our most dangerous when threatened. Admiral Wilson stepped closer to Sath. Your demonstration failed, Commander, but it has started something you can't stop. The Council tried to contain us peacefully. You've shown them force doesn't work either. Where does that leave us? Sath had no answer. The Braxil ship departed Earth system the next day. In the following weeks, Earth received messages from the Galactic Council. The tone had changed from condescension to barely concealed panic. The ultimatum remained, but now came with threats. Comply or face the combined might of the Council. They're more afraid than ever, Dr. Foster told Admiral Wilson. And they're responding the only way they know how, by trying to make the scary thing go away. Wilson nodded grimly. We need to find another approach, before fear pushes them into something none of us can take back. President Olivia Martinez looked out the window of her office at the snow-capped mountains of Colorado. Earth's capital had been moved underground after the Braxil attack, hidden beneath the rocky peaks for protection. 6 months had passed since the failed demonstration, and relations with the Galactic Council had only gotten worse. Madam President, her aide announced, they're ready for you. She nodded and followed him to the large conference room where Earth's emergency response team waited. Around the table sat Admiral Wilson, General Cooper, Dr. Miller, who had been part of the first contact team, and a new face, Jack Nelson, a former soldier turned diplomat who had a reputation for unusual solutions. What options do we have? President Martinez asked as she took her seat. General Cooper went first. We can build up our defenses, The council species may outnumber us, but they're slow to act. If we fortify our colonies and key systems, we can make any attack too costly for them. Admiral Wilson shook her head. That's just treating the symptom. Their fear will only grow if we look more dangerous. What about accepting their terms? Martinez asked. Just to buy time. Dr. Miller frowned. They'll keep adding more restrictions. First our ships, then our technology. Eventually, they'd want to control our population growth. We can't live in a cage. The room fell silent. The problem seemed impossible. The council feared humans too much to accept them as equals, but any show of human strength only made their fear worse. Jack Nelson cleared his throat. We're looking at this all wrong, he said. Everyone turned to look at him. Nelson was in his 40s with gray in his beard and a scar across his left cheek from his military days. The problem isn't that we're physically stronger than them, he continued. The problem is they don't understand us. To them, predator means monster, but humans are more than our physical capabilities. What are you suggesting? Martinez asked. Cultural exchange, Nelson said simply. Not just diplomats and officials, real humans, showing real human life. Let them see that our strength is paired with compassion, creativity, and kindness. Dr. Miller looked thoughtful. It could work. The Valari and other species are terrified of us physically, but they've never seen how we live. Our art, our music, our values, General Cooper scoffed. You want to solve this with a cultural festival? I want to solve this by showing them we're not the monsters they think we are, Nelson replied firmly. Fear comes from not understanding. We need to make ourselves understood. President Martinez considered the idea. It was certainly less risky than military preparations or surrender to the council's demands. How would this work? She asked. We invite them to Earth, Nelson said. Not just to sterile meeting rooms, but to our cities, our homes. And we send teams of humans, teachers, artists, doctors, regular people, to their worlds. We show them who we really are. 2 weeks later, Earth broadcast an open invitation to all species of the Galactic Council. Representatives were invited to visit Earth for a cultural understanding initiative. The response was minimal. Most species were too afraid to accept. But a small delegation did arrive, led by Ambassador Krill, an insectoid being from a species called the Noxari. Welcome to Earth, Dr. Miller said as the delegation disembarked from their ship. She had been appointed head of the Cultural Exchange program. The aliens moved cautiously, clearly nervous about being on the human homeworld, but Miller had prepared carefully. The first few days involved small, controlled interactions in environments the aliens found comfortable. They stayed in special quarters adjusted to their gravity preferences. Slowly, Miller introduced them to human culture. They attended concerts where the aliens were amazed by human music. They visited art galleries and were shown human literature, translated into their languages. Many of the stories fascinated them, especially those about humans protecting the weak or sacrificing for others. Your stories often show humans using their strength to help, not harm, Ambassador Krill noted with surprise. Is this common behavior? It's what we value most, Miller explained. Being strong means having a responsibility to help those who aren't. The turning point came during the third week of the visit. A severe earthquake struck the west coast. The alien delegation watched in astonishment as rescue teams rushed toward the danger instead of away from it. They're running into collapsing buildings, Krill said in disbelief. They could be killed. To save others, Miller explained. This is what humans do. The aliens requested to observe the rescue efforts. They watched as humans dug through rubble for days, risking their lives to save strangers. They saw humans donate blood, shelter, and supplies to help victims. When Ambassador Krill returned to the Galactic Council, his report was unlike any before. He spoke not of human strength or speed or endurance, but of human compassion. He described a species whose physical capabilities were matched by their capacity for kindness. They are indeed dangerous, he told the Council, but not in the way we feared. They are dangerous because they will not hesitate to risk everything to help others, even us if we were in need. Some council members were convinced, others remained skeptical, but for the first time there was real debate about the human problem rather than just fear. Meanwhile, Jack Nelson had discovered something troubling. While analyzing council communications, he found evidence of a secret plan. A faction within the council was preparing to quarantine the entire human solar system, using massive gravity generators to create an artificial black hole that would trap Earth and its colonies. "They're still afraid," he told President Martinez, "and fear makes people do terrible things." Martinez looked at the evidence grimly. The cultural exchange was working, but too slowly. Some aliens were beginning to understand humans, but others were only becoming more desperate to contain what they couldn't control. "We need something more," she said. "Something that will make them all understand at once." Nelson nodded. "I think I know where to look. There are stories among the older council species about the ancient ones, the first civilization in the galaxy. If anyone knew about different species and how they could live together, it would be them." "Do these ancient ones still exist?" Martinez asked. "No," Nelson replied, "but their knowledge might. And I think I know someone who can help us find it." Commander Alan Wright stood on the bridge of the Earthship Defiant, the most advanced vessel humans had ever built. 5 years had passed since first contact with the Volari. In that time, humanity had gone from excited space explorers to a species fighting for its freedom to exist in the galaxy. "Status report," Alan said to his bridge crew. "All systems normal, Commander," replied his first officer. "We'll reach the coordinates in 6 hours." Alan nodded. The Defiant was escorting a smaller diplomatic vessel carrying Ambassador Laura Chen. Despite the Council's warnings, they were headed to the center of the galaxy, to a place known as the Ancient Temple. Jack Nelson had found records of the temple in old Volari texts. It was said to contain knowledge left by the Ancient Ones, the first advanced species in the galaxy who had disappeared millions of years ago. Nelson believed the temple might hold answers that could change how the galaxy viewed humans. In her quarters aboard the diplomatic vessel, Ambassador Chen was reviewing everything they knew about the Ancient Ones. After years of negotiating with the Council, she was tired of being seen as a monster simply for being human. "Ambassador," her communications officer called. "We're receiving a message from the Council." Chen wasn't surprised. "Put it through." The stern face of Council leader Drav appeared on her screen. Drav was from a species called the Morax, tall beings with gray skin and 6 eyes arranged in a circle around their heads. "Ambassador Chen," Drav said coldly, "you are violating Council directives by entering restricted space. Turn back immediately." "The temple isn't in Council territory," Chen replied calmly. "It belongs to no one." "It is restricted for your protection," Drav insisted. "The temple is dangerous." "We'll take that risk," Chen said. "Unless you'd like to tell me what you're afraid we'll find there." Drav's 6 eyes blinked in sequence. "You are making a grave mistake, human." The transmission ended. Chen sighed. More threats, more fear. Would it ever end? 6 hours later, the ships arrived at their destination. The temple wasn't what they expected. Instead of a building, it was a massive space station, ancient beyond imagining. It was shaped like a perfect sphere, its surface covered in symbols that glowed with blue light. "It's beautiful," Chen whispered as they approached in a shuttle. The temple had a docking bay that opened as they neared, as if welcoming them. Inside, artificial gravity and atmosphere awaited. The human team, led by Chen and Wright, stepped cautiously into the ancient structure. The interior was a maze of corridors and rooms, all lit with the same blue glow. The walls were covered in writing in an unknown language, yet somehow, Chen found she could understand it. "It's like it's speaking directly to my mind," she said in wonder. They followed the corridors deeper into the temple. In the central chamber, they found what they were looking for. A massive holographic display activated as they entered, showing a map of the galaxy. "Welcome, seekers," a voice said in their minds. "You have questions. We have answers." "Who are you?" Chen asked. "We are the memory of those you call the Ancient Ones," the voice replied. "We seeded life throughout this galaxy, nurturing it toward sentience. The hologram shifted, showing various planets and the species that evolved on them. Each world presented different challenges. The voice continued. On some, life flourished easily. On others, survival was difficult. The hologram showed Earth, harsh and beautiful. Your world was special. We did not interfere with its evolution. We wanted to see what natural selection would create without our guidance. Chen and Wright exchanged shocked glances. You mean the other species? Wright began. We're guided, the voice confirmed, protected from the harsher realities of evolution. Their worlds were managed to reduce predation. Their development was directed toward cooperation rather than competition. The hologram showed different alien species, with data about how their evolution had been altered. Why did you leave us alone? Chen asked. To see what would emerge naturally. You are the control group in a grand experiment, and you have exceeded all expectations. The revelation was overwhelming. Humans weren't the abnormal ones. They were the baseline. The other species had been altered, protected from the natural processes that had shaped humanity. The others fear us because we evolved as nature intended, Wright said. While they were sheltered. Yes, the voice replied. Fear is natural when facing the unknown. But knowledge can overcome fear. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the temple. On their communication devices, they received an urgent message from the Defiant. Ambassador council ships have arrived. They're demanding we surrender. Chen and Wright rushed back to the docking bay, downloading as much data from the temple as they could. As they reached their shuttle, the temple shook from weapons fire. They're attacking the temple, Wright shouted. They're trying to destroy it before we can learn more. They launched the shuttle, racing back to their ships. On the view screen, they could see a fleet of council vessels led by a massive flagship. This is Council Leader Drav, came the transmission. Surrender the information you have taken from the temple, or we will destroy your vessels. Chen looked at Wright. They knew. They've always known what the temple would tell us. Of course. They knew, Wright replied grimly. That's why they wanted to keep us contained. We're what they could have been without interference. The Defiant moved to protect the diplomatic vessel, its shields taking hits from the council ships. We need to broadcast what we've learned, Chen said, to every species in the galaxy. Wright nodded. The Defiant can boost your signal, but we'll have to lower our shields to generate enough power. Do it, Chen ordered. As the Defiant's shields lowered, Drav's flagship moved in for the kill. But before it could fire, the temple itself came to life. Beams of blue energy shot out from its surface, not damaging the ships, but connecting to their communication systems. What's happening? Chen asked. The answer came as the hologram from the temple appeared on every screen, in every ship, and was broadcast to every world in council space. The truth can no longer be hidden, the voice of the temple said to the galaxy. It is time for all children of the stars to know their origins. Council Leader Drav's ship retreated, but it was too late. The knowledge was out. Humanity wasn't a mistake or a threat. They were the natural path of evolution, the control group in the Ancient One's grand experiment. In the weeks that followed, everything changed. Many species were initially shocked, some angry at the manipulation of their development. But as the full knowledge from the temple was shared, understanding began to grow. The final meeting between humans and the council was held on neutral ground. Ambassador Chen entered the room to find the alien representatives watching her not with fear, but with curiosity. We have much to learn from each other, Council Member Krill said, stepping forward. Your kind evolved naturally, facing challenges. Ours never did. Our kind was guided toward specific traits the Ancient Ones valued. Different paths, different strengths, Chen replied. But we're all children of the same galaxy. As she extended her hand in the human gesture of friendship, she remembered the first meeting with the Valari years ago, when they had frozen in fear at the same gesture. This time, Krill reached out and took her hand, and no one froze in fear as the humans walked out together with their new allies, ready to build a future where difference was understood rather than feared.